So welcome to the webinar. With us this evening is Deborah Englehart-Nash. And Deborah has been in dentistry for over 25 years. She's a trainer, an author, a presenter, and consultant. And we were just talking about this, she still works and leads her dental office, and how important that is to bring those skills, into her consulting and her speaking. And phenomenal speaker. I've seen her speak live many times. You're gonna hear her tonight, but you got to hear her live. Deborah has presented workshops nationally, internationally for numerous groups and study groups and organizations. She's repeatedly recognized by Dentistry Today as a leader in continuing dental education and a leader in dental consulting. She was a president for the ADMC. Basically, that's an organization for management consultants. So she's the consultant of consultants, okay? And she's an award winner of the Gordon Christensen Award, a very prestigious award. And we're so grateful to have her on this webinar. So without further ado, Deborah Englehart-Nash.
Well, Alex, thank you. And it's great to work with All-Star, not only because of the value of your programs, but also it's nice to work with friends. So I'm glad to be here. For those of you, you might want to just type in happy birthday because it's Alex's birthday tonight, and he's spending it with you. So I think that's pretty neat. A lot of consultants and a lot of speakers talk about the recall department in various ways. They talk about it possibly being a loss leader, and then on the other hand, a lot of people talk about that is your major breadwinner for your practice. So no matter how you look at it, your patients of record are golden. They are critical to your practice. So when we're talking about, I'm not advancing here, Alex. Don't know why. Here we go. So why is healthy recall important? Because those people are the foundation. They are a building block of your practice success. And if you think about, we're going to do some numbers. We're going to do math. And I will be honest with you. Those of you who've never heard me before, and you probably many of you don't know me, I'm not a math person. So I'm not. This is not going to be. We're not going to spend a lot of time on analytics. There's great analytical companies for your dental office. So I don't know if any of you are working with Dentometrics or Blue IQ or Dental Intel. Those are exceptional companies that will absolutely get down to the depths of your practice and really analyze it to the nth degree, sometimes to the point of overkill. But man, well, they will really dive in. We're not going to be as in depth as those dental analytic companies, but we're going to get into some basics of why it's important to have a healthy recall. And by healthy recall, what we're talking about is how many people are you seeing? So that's going to be our major emphasis this evening. What percentage of your patients are getting back into your practice? The reality is that some offices say, well, we think we have 100% recall return rate. And they are basing that on a couple of factors. And typically they are false factors. One of the factors is, well, we're full. I mean, we can't get people in. And some offices say, isn't that great that we can't get patients in for months? And that's not necessarily a good thing. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. Or they'll take a look at their reports from their software, and their software will give them some basic analytics, but they basically are talking about the intervals in which your patients of record are coming back in that are in your recall system. So they are not necessarily counting all of your patients. So we'll make sure that we're going to be on the same page, and we're going to define when we're talking about your practice and your practice health. I'll define about what active patient means and recall return rate and those things. So we talk about practice health. But here's one of the reasons why it's important. one of the reasons why I want to keep my patients in the practice, I want to keep them in the ReCare system, is that it's less expensive to market. So when you're taking a look at, I mean, everyone's talking about Google ads, and they're talking about, you know, social media, and they're talking about, do I have to have a YouTube account, and do I have to have an Instagram account, and how do I bring people in? And I will say, even though this is a recall event, you never close your practice. You are never too busy to attract new, to bring new patients into your practice. The question is, how many do I need, and what type of patient do I want to attract? Alex will have to have me on another night to talk about that. But so we still have to have, I mean, think about a pond. If a pond doesn't have fresh water running into it, what does it do? It stagnates and it gets yucky. And if your practice doesn't have fresh patients into it, it can also stagnate and get yucky. So we're constantly, you know, we have to take a look at, yeah, we're striving for new patients, but how many? Exactly how many do we need? And it's going to be based on a couple of factors, but one of them will be your recall factor. But retaining your patients is not only less expensive, but they're typically ready to accept your treatment more readily because you've established a trust with them. They also continue to generate a positive word of mouth to their friends, and they're less likely to defect for the special down the street. The come on in for the $29.95 exam, radiographs, and cleaning special. They're not less likely to be attracted to that because of the loyalty that they have with you. It is the single most important drive of long-term profitability. Here's what's really critical when we're talking about recall and ReCare, and why this is so important. It is not necessarily your muscular motions per minute that your patients are coming back to you for. It is not that you are doing an amazing job of root planing and scaling, and your perio-charting and your bleeding points are unbelievable. That's certainly clinically critical. But your patients are coming back to you because of the relationships you establish with them. And we'll talk about the fine line between, I mean, we talk about that relationship because there's a difference in being almost too social with patients and not clinical enough, being too clinical with patients and not social enough. And we're going to talk about, again, part of healthy recall is knowing the balance between being overly social or overly clinical. I think when we talk about the single most important drive of long-term profitability is customer loyalty, and how do we drive that? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into some stats now, so grab your water or grab your favorite libation, and there's an article that they're going to offer you that's going to have these statistics in the article. So in terms of you're thinking you're going to have to sit here and do the math for the next 45 minutes, that's going to be provided for you, so don't have to worry about it. But when we look at hygiene production percentage, the standard is that a hygienist is producing 20 to 30% of practice productivity. That may vary by a few percentage points based on how many hygienists actually work in the practice. But typically, hygienist is going to do 20 to 30% of total productivity in the office. The hygienist is going to be producing 3 to 4 times his or her income. So example, when you take a look at that, if you're paying the hygienist $40 an hour, then the hygienist should be producing a minimum of $160 an hour. That's part of practice health, and that's an important statistic to take a look at. But in addition to the production per hour, we talk about healthy recall. Not only do we want to take a look at the end of the day, what was my daily production and daily collections, and then if we wanted to get into insurance, and we talk about what was my daily net production after writing off my contributions to PPOs or managed care networks with whom I participate.